you find yourself in instance, you realized you defiled something, you made something unclean, or you ate something unintentionally that you only found out later was unclean. You would use a guilt offering because it was unintentional. You didn't realize what was going on, and you would come up and you would make this offering because you would want that relationship back. Guys, everything about this screams, I've made the way for you. I'm standing here actively. I've made access in your land so that you can come into my presence if you want that relationship. Yeshua made it even easier. You lift up your offering in praise and supplication, and you cry out to Him, and He takes that incense and He goes into the Holy of Holies and He goes, this is their heart. And the reason we have that access is because the blood was taken care of. Let me remind you quickly, just as we close. Yeshua is the gate. There's only one way to the Father. There's no way to the Father but through me, right? There's only one entrance in the tabernacle courtyard. Only one. You come in, altar of burnt offerings, with the horns on the side, talking about, made out of brass, which talks about judgment. Okay? The blood gets caught, gets sprinkled on the horns of the altar in many cases. Lord, turn your wrath or your judgment away from me. The laver is sitting here. Lord, cleanse me. You come into the tent itself. Okay? Again, only one entrance. We have 5 pillars. Through your ketubah, through this wedding contract, alright? You come into His presence and you see the menorah, the very spirit, the pure righteousness of who He is. You see the table of showbread, or the lechem pamim, the bread of His presence. You are my bread of life, you are my substance, you are my memorial offering. I know that you're going to take care of this. And then you come in through His very seal, His name that's sealed on your head, all the Gospels. And you have His throne room, through your prayers and supplications, a sweet aroma, also with horns on the altar. Blood was sprinkled on this altar as well. And on Yom Kippur, in between the 2 angels, blood was poured out on the mercy seat here, on His very throne where He's sitting on the wedding contract. The blood of Messiah, He takes us in, we confess our sin. We come in, we deal with our sin. We are cleansed. We come in through the Torah. He is the Word in flesh. He is the Aleph Tav. We see the righteousness and the spirits of God, of who He is. He is the bread of life. He takes my prayer to the very throne room of God, also sprinkled with blood. But this one is a golden altar. The blood sprinkled on the golden altar, righteousness. My unrighteousness is made perfect in His righteousness. And I come through the seal to the very presence of my King, the Lord of Lords, God Most High, in the throne room where the angels are flanked on His side, and I pour out this nefesh before Him because I want relationship. Yeshua made this process. He is this process. And He is the fullness of that heart. I want you to dwell with me as much as I want to dwell with you. But there is one way we're going to get this right. And His name is Yeshua. He fulfills every aspect of this tabernacle, just so you can draw near to God. He does all of that so you can have access to the God who created you. Baruch Hashem, right? Alright, any questions, any thoughts about this? Go ahead.
I have one.
Yeah.
When I was doing the peace offerings, I saw the different parts of the animals you were used for the sacrifice. It was the liver and certain fats and kidneys and all that.
Yes.
But then it says right at the end, It says, and an everlasting law throughout your generations in all your dwellings. You do not eat any fat or any blood.
Right. There was a specific type of. What happens is around the livers and the coverings and that, there's like a whole clump of fat in between. Okay, now culturally at the time, what they said was that was considered some of the choicest part. So it was the best thereof. Okay? So they would say the best would go on to God. Okay, number one. Number two, obviously you wouldn't want the priest to eat that because we learn now that that amount of fat will probably give you a heart attack and you die. You're doing physical labor, it's not going to help you. Okay? Number three, this is not the little strip of fat you find on the meat. This is a whole clump of fat and coverings and all the rest of it that surrounds the liver and kidneys and things like that. So it is the specific part. Alright? Still not great to eat a whole big chunk of fat, but it is not this type of fat that you're talking about. This is not considered kosher. Alright? This is part of the sacrifice.
Can I add to fat? People who live in colder areas eat fat to insulate their bodies against the cold. Living in the desert is not a good idea to eat fat.
Yeah, in my nature you're going to die.
I just wanted to add, yesterday, strangely enough, I had a conversation with someone who was very concerned about our religion. And she made it very clear that we don't have to do all this. And my explanation was that to draw closer to God, that is why we do these things. Just like it is a mitzvah, it's work to open my Bible and read it. But I do that to draw closer to God. Reading the Bible does not save me. Driving to church or to a synagogue or somewhere, sitting there listening to a preacher will not save me. But that is effort to get ready, get dressed, to get there. That effort brings me closer to God. And it's just so beautiful that we've done all this today after I had that conversation where I explained that God wants me to do all this so that I can draw near to Him. It's a way to Him. It's not the way of getting saved, but when I do this voluntarily, I draw near to Him.
The only mandatory thing He tells you to do is a sin and a guilt offering, because He needs you to deal with your sin, because otherwise it's going to kill you. The rest of it, He says, I want your heart. Are you willing to do? Yeah. Okay? Yeah. Anybody else? All right.